I think in running, it's very much needed. Like you need to be at this event, you need to work with the right, stakeholders, again, who not only support your product, but will give you honest feedback. You need to build the brand from the retailer, starting with them before you do any performance marketing stuff.
And welcome back. We have Julien Vancauwenberghe joining from France. Julien, did I get it right?
Perfect. Good job.
Amazing.
Easy one.
Well, Julien, appreciate you taking the time to chat this evening, your time. You are the CMO of Kiprun, brand under Decathlon over in Europe, and excited to dive into things with you, talking all things running and marketing and expansion into new global markets. So welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
For sure. First question is a tough one. I'm sure you've been studying your whole life for this question. And the question is, who is Julien?
Ooh, I thought you were asking me about my last name. Julien was born in France, here in Lille, actually the north of France. I'm a father, I'm married, I have 3 kids. And funny story, I've lived in the US for 15 years. I lived in the East Coast in Atlanta and Seattle. I just came back in France a year ago. So I'm actually French American, very, very attached to your country. And so I'm very excited to talk to you today professionally. So I have about 25 years of experience. I started my career at Coca-Cola. I worked there for 15 years, pretty much half in France and the other half in Atlanta. I started in sports marketing, and then I had various roles in marketing. Then I moved to Seattle to work for Amazon. Over there, I had 3 different roles. I launched Amazon Fresh for supermarkets for Amazon. And then I moved to Decathlon about 3 years and a half ago. I don't know if your audience is very familiar with Decathlon. I guess not. Decathlon is actually the 3rd largest sporting good company in the world. I believe it's the first sports retailer in the world. It has revenues about $16-ish billion. It designs and manufactures products pretty much across any sports you can imagine. It exists in the US. You can find it on decathlon.com. And in the US, they do focus on outdoor categories. And I'm working for Kiprun. I'm the global CMO for Kiprun. Kiprun is Decathlon's running brand that's focusing on what we call the expert runners.
Fun story. There was a Decathlon about 10 minutes from where I grew up, and it was one of my favorite stores to go to. My parents would bring me there like every couple of weeks on the weekend, and I'd just wander the aisles. And
Nice.
it's where I didn't run growing up, but it's where I got like tennis shoes and hockey equipment and all sorts of sporting goods growing up, baseball cleats.
Where was that?
It was outside of Boston, in a town called Newton, Massachusetts, on Needham Street.
Yes. Yeah. I think, they started late 1990s,
Yep.
Close to 2000s. Yes, they started in Boston, didn't work out. And
Despite all the money we spent there.
Yes, good. Well, you should have brought your friends.
Yeah.
And then, they came back on the West Coast years after. And actually now it's available online and through wholesale partners. So we're selling Kiprun soon in April and other Decathlon products at some sports retail you can find in the US.
Cool. We're going to dive into the business side of things, but I want to set the stage for you as a runner. Obviously, if you're at a shoe brand, I assume you do some running, and knowing the history of the brand and the focus of the brand, I'm curious how running found you, and we'll get to the evolution of the intersection of work and play, but curious how running found you initially.
You mean running as in the sport or
sport, yeah, as a participant.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, as a participant. So I used to be, when I was young, I was a soccer player. I was quite into soccer, playing like 4 times a week in decent level. And so I was running on top of soccer practice to be in shape. Then I got injured, like growing issues. And so I stopped soccer probably in my end of my 20s. And so I started to get into running for that reason. Unfortunately, I did my first half marathon in Atlanta. Then in Seattle, I was more into trail running. I actually love hiking. And then I say we because with my wife and family, we got into trail. And this year I might do my first marathon. So I have not ran a marathon yet, and I might do it here in Lille because it's quite flat.
What is it about running that hooked you after playing soccer?
Well, again, first it was more of a, there's less lateral move and you're going in one direction, which is better for growings. And then what I really like about running is, and actually it does connect with what we try to stand for as a brand, but I won't bore you with that right now. I like the fact that it's very much focused on, growth, knowing yourself better, self-discovery. You actually feel the progress that you're making. That is something I do like. And the second part that I like is it's kind of a meditation. It can be either meditation where, similar to hiking for me, where it's one of the few times where I actually don't think of anything, or it's when you actually have kind of productive thinking, momentum, usually about work, to be honest, where you have those ideas that you actually don't have time to have when you're, actually at work. So it's kind of for me, the more the mental side of running that I like. And recently, I don't know how popular is it in the US, but recently, since I moved back to France, I got into high rocks. And I really like the combination of running and strengthening. So I'm really getting into it. And I'll do my first high rocks in a few weeks with my oldest son.
Yeah, it's really popular here. I've had a partnership with Puma for the last couple of years, so I've seen them go all in on high rocks, and it was fascinating to learn more about. So you got into running while you were in Seattle at Amazon. Is that correct?
Yeah, you mean professionally? Yeah, I got into. So it's kind of an unusual way, I guess, to get into running professionally compared to, I'm sure, many people you talk to who've been there, for a long time. I think just a background in my career, I think one of the common thread through my career is I'm really drawn into, having an impact, making change. I actually like to, change things and address complex problems. And so, like at Coke, I started, I repositioned Powerade as a sports drink. It was not the case in France. And then I joined after Coke bought vitamin water in the US, and we scaled it in countries around the world. Then I worked on changing the brand architecture of Coca-Cola globally. That's why now actually you have Coke Zero is not black anymore, and we call it Coca-Cola with zero sugar. That's something I've done. Then I moved to Amazon and wanted to launch their first supermarket, which is not their core business. And then I moved to Decathlon because I was missing sports. Like I started my career in sports marketing at Coca-Cola. And so that was one thing. But the second thing is, like I kind of alluded to, in the US, Decathlon does not sell through its store anymore. And they sell through a new model for them, the wholesale model and DTC, which is really, again, something that attracted me because it was a change and a different way of doing things for them. And so that first how I got into outdoor, because in the US, Decathlon focused on the outdoor. Decathlon is a very, very well-known brand, very loved in France. And as I love the US after 15 years over there building my family, it was kind of a, beautiful match where I wanted to launch this beautiful French brand in my, new country. And then after 2 years on this job, we had been in the US for 15 years. Our kids, they're now, sorry, it's a little personal, but they're now, 17, 15, and 12. And we thought that we wanted to give them the opportunity to, know what it is to live in France. So I actually, applied for roles, and there was one role that I was excited about, which was the Kiprun brand marketing role, because again, it's a kind of a unique brand for Decathlon, where we want to sell outside Decathlon stores on top of our stores, where it was really getting into high quality products and really ready for its marketing prime time. And so again, that's what attracted me. So more so than running, it was really the call for a change and challenge, exactly, that got me into running.
So there's so many places we could go here. It's so fascinating, right? Because in my mind, Kiprun is a challenger brand in the US, but you're backed by a $16 billion a year revenue brand. And so it's not a challenger brand in the traditional sense of the word, but more so in a consumer perception standpoint. I was running with a couple of friends in Boston a few weeks ago, and I was actually running in the Kiprun trail shoe because it was snowing and icy, and we were running road miles, and it performed wonderfully. But I was talking about brands like Kiprun and Mount to Coast, which both appear to be quite well capitalized, and both seem to be following similar but quite different playbooks at the same time of coming in and using capital in respectful and meaningful way. And I was like, look, they seem to be or have a desire to spend tons of money in the space, which is good for the community. And they're sponsoring people and properties. And like you look at what Nike's doing. Nike has decided that via ACG, they care about trail running again. And they're raising prize purses to $150,000 a race. And whether you have positive feelings about Nike or not as a participant, it's good to have that much cash coming into the sport, in my opinion. There are probably drawbacks for sure, but in this moment where so many people, myself included, want to see a professionalization of the sport and enabling professional athletes to do it, as well as amateurs and race directors and media properties to have like more eyeballs and ears. To me, it's like a rising tide lifts all ships. So let's dive into the Kiprun side of things. Why was the US identified as a focus? I know you guys now have a handful of team members that are responsible for the global and American expansion, and you're working with Outside PR, which is a group that I've done a lot of work with. I love every single person on that team, Gordon and Jess and Dina and all of them. Zach is the contact, it's your account manager. There's a lot of investment being made on your end. What drew you to the US and both the road and trail market?
Yeah. Well, it felt a very natural step for us to go into the US. Kiprun, again, just for your audience to know, we're in 70 countries. We're quite known. Decathlon is very known here in Europe. We're also present in China, Japan, India. It's funny to my American friend when they don't know Decathlon, I say it's kind of like Trader Joe's for sports. So there is this love for the brand that you have for Trader Joe's in the US.
Right.
We make 90% of what you find in the Decathlon store is products we make. And, they're not delicious, but they're, very, very good for what you're looking for. And they're unique, like, to us. And Decathlon is known to offer accessible products. With that, when you're not in the biggest market for running in the world and you feel you're ready to go there, it felt very natural. And what I meant by ready, I need to go back a little bit in history, because it was probably not the case. We probably told ourselves 2 years ago that we want to go there, and we planned for that moment of April 2026. Because after you just say, oh yeah, it's the biggest country from a running perspective with China, then it's really about market readiness. And so again, just to backtrack, Kiprun, actually, it's a fun story. The idea of Kiprun was born in 2007 at the New York Marathon. There was actually two teammates from Decathlon who went to the New York Marathon, and they came back super impressed and frankly in awe by the crowd and the cheering cry throughout the race. And from that moment, they wanted actually to build a new brand for Decathlon, focus on, the expert runner, more premium. And they wanted to capture that essence of being the first supporter of runners, to help them continue to run, to keep running. And so that's how they came up with this name, Kiprun, which is the contraction of keep running. Then fast forward, 17, 18 years. Like I said, 17 countries and a incredible leap into quality of product expertise. I think there were some, turning moments probably 2 years ago. One of, a French athlete, woman, beat the French national record for a marathon with Kiprun. And that's really the starting point of developing products that were, better and better, frankly. And so, we deliver on products. So we felt we were ready. We actually came to TRE, not 2 months ago, but a year and a half ago, with a tiny little booth. Really, like it felt like to your point, like a little boutique brand. And the purpose was just to get feedback of the people at TRE. So it was super humble, super scrappy. We came with our shoes and wanted to validate through, people like you, stakeholders, influencers, people from the industry that our products were ready. And so we got that check in 2024 that confirmed that, 2026 was possible. Then it was about, retail readiness after products. And so from that time on, we, with the local team in the US, started to, the same way we were very careful about our product, then it was about choosing the right partners, because we're going, let's say, small first, and we want to find partners that are, eager to build a brand with us in the US, that are trusted in their communities, that will give us feedback. And so the team in the US built those connections, and we now have 2 accounts confirmed, the running warehouse and Run More. And the third piece was brand readiness. So I joined Kiprun a year and a half ago to relaunch the brand globally. So last year, we launched our new visual identity. We launched our new global platform, More Runs, More Life. We launched our new franchise before actually Kiprun. People were making fun of Kiprun because of our names of shoes. It's funny, I had an interview with a German journalist about a year ago, and the tough question she had on me was, when are you going to change those names? Because they sound like, car tags. And because it's true, they were complicated names and numbers. We did this. So, we feel the brand is ready. We have some retail partners. The products are ready. So we felt 2026 was the right time.
So your time at Coke and perhaps Amazon as well, many of the partners that help with brand marketing are properties like the NFL or Major League Baseball, or these massive entities that the contracts are millions or billions of dollars to execute, right? How do you think about the air support or the people that help execute the partnerships in running, where maybe it's a lot more smaller properties versus like the NFL or a stadium or something like that, or Whole Foods, whatnot? Your LinkedIn lists your specific focus as owning brand strategy, creative, in-store, social, influencer, PR, athletes, experiential, CRM, and brand website. So obviously a lot of those things are done for a brand like Coca-Cola or Amazon, but the players are quite different. The agencies are massive versus the doers and the people that do the thing in running. How have you thought about what the space looks like in 2025 and 2026, where anyone is a media property? We're talking on a podcast. There's earned media that exists. This is not a paid promotion. And there are a lot of opportunities to like seed product and let people say great things, or pay people to do partnerships, or work with events and sponsor races and those types of things. So basically I'm saying there are like endless opportunities, but they're all like micro or smaller type opportunities compared to a Coca-Cola or Amazon. How have you thought about what the marketing moves and pieces are as it relates to the running space?
I think there are things that are quite common between those 3 industries. And one of the main difference, like you mentioned, is probably the scale. But, the common things are, all, I think the beverages brands and the tech brands also want to leverage earned media and work with influencers and teach their products. The recipe to be successful are probably the same. You want to have, a clear message that resonates with your audience. The importance of the product is key. And you also want to drive some, emotions in your marketing to connect with your audience. Related to what you said, some of the big differences in running, identity is probably more important. You put yourself in those shoes. They're part of your persona. Sometimes you have a personal challenge you want to beat, or it's my first marathon in my case, or you have a PB. And it's true in beverage and tech world, you're not that vested as a person into your product. Runners are very skeptical, I think, about, over marketing, let's say. And the importance of product, let's say it's even more important in this industry, I believe, than in the others. You can, if you have poor product, you can't really get your way out of it with marketing. So I think that's one difference. And another one that's related to it is the importance of the community, like you said. So it's kind of the collection of everything you said, right? Being at the small events, talking to the right, stakeholders. The athletes play a different role than in those two other industries because in our case, like we
It's
co-create product.
validation. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, in our case, we actually pretty much all of our products I can think of have been co-created with them, meaning they give us input throughout the process. And like you said, yeah, when they say we endorse this product, they actually run with it to do their job, which is different from those two other industries. So you earn trust in a very long-term way, like you said, and you have to be very patient. And that's what we want to do in the US market, which is very different from us than here in Europe, where Decathlon is known. The challenge here for us is different in Europe than it will be in the US, because here it's more about changing perception of, a brand that used to be known for a few years and that has really drastically evolved into one of those top performer brands. While in the US, it's about introducing it. And so we'll have to be patient. We'll work with, the right partners, store after store. But I think, yeah, it's more long-term. You have to be, accepted by the community. And I think one of the root cause of all this is it's really about the identity of the people much more than those two other industries.
Yeah, you're talking about trust, right? Trust is the most valuable asset. It's built in droplets and lost in buckets. And so both the opportunity and the risk for someone who partners with a challenger brand, a competitor, whatever it might be, is that if they partner with the brand and the product doesn't work or doesn't last or doesn't stick, then they burned their own trust and credibility. And on the flip side, if it does work and you introduce somebody to something new, it enhances your own credibility with that brand. I'm no longer working with them, but I started working with Puma in 2023. And I was out there saying, hey guys, these guys have a serious shoe and you should pay attention. Like a much smoother message than that. But effectively what I was saying was like, the people are great. The brand is great. The product is awesome. Trust me. And I was right. And over a several year period, people finally came around to say, wow, the Fast R3 is the fastest shoe. Yeah, the fastest shoe out there. And it was proven to be such. And so it's a fun time when there are so many opportunities, right? It's not just Nike, Adidas, and Asics. There are so many small brands that are doing really well. And then there are the big brands coming from other countries. I saw a lot of it at TRE this year. I'm sure you did too. And you guys were tucked away in the corner of the room and the booth was constantly busy. So you were doing something right in that space, and people were like fawning over these shoes, and they're like fast shoes and they're light and the grip is wonderful. You also appear to be focused on both road and trail. Is that correct? How come both?
Yeah, we're actually, Kiprun is one of those rare running brand that's in trail and road and track. We won't launch with track in the US. We're also across apparel, footwear, and accessories. So, we cover pretty much everything you can think of. We have hydro bag. You call it hydro vest or a hydro bag?
Yeah, like a hydration vest. Yeah.
Yeah, hydration vest. We have hiking, trail poles. We have everything. Actually, hydration vest, as far as we know, we're the second most worn hydro vest at UTMB Chamonix, for instance. And so yeah, in the US, we'll launch with road footwear, trail footwear, and some hydro vests.
Is that challenging, or is it a unique positive opportunity? And the reason I ask is there's value in a specific lane and focus, but then there's also the opportunity to, like, if somebody starts loving a brand and they begin to trust the brand, it's natural for them to obviously extend into other categories. So we saw what, Tracksmith did with trail apparel, and they've nailed road running, and I have many opinions on the brand, but they wanted to get into trail. So they said, we're a trail brand now. Ultimately, they have some great products. And the idea is that if you trust us for road, you should trust us for trail, right? So how do you think about the doing all things at all times in running? And are you able to do that because it's not a new brand, and it is what you're already doing in Europe and Asia?
Yeah, there's a lot of questions, but yeah, I think it's both an opportunity and can be a challenge. The reason we cover so much is actually go back to our, purpose. We say we want to support everyone to keep running so they can explore their potential and grow. That's, why we exist. And so everyone really matters. And everyone for us is, whether you do trail, road, or track. And that's why, again, we have apparel and footwear and accessories, because, we want to be there evolving with you throughout your running journey. We want to, address every opportunity you can think of for not to run. We want to address it. So that's, going back to who we are. It's an opportunity for the reason you mentioned, right? It's great. We can support everyone and we can see if there's an opportunity to double down on some of these. It gives you an opportunity to, for lack of a better word, acquire more customers because you're so broad. We're not only broad at Kiprun here in Europe in terms of number of breadth of product. We also go very deep. So if you take a hydro vest, we probably have around 10 different models we can offer you. Different sizes for men, for women, different fit. Same for socks. We probably have 15 different running socks available there. So we want to cover every need you may have. Now, it can become a challenge when you are entering a new market like the US, where you're not known, and you have to be quite sharp so you can stand for something. And so as long as you're able as a brand to make those priorities, and so it was actually out of those 2 years that I mentioned, one of the topic was like, where do we focus? And we ended up focusing on footwear and hydro vests. And within footwear, we're gonna come to the US market with 3 franchises. So one, pretty much a daily trainer, we call it Kip Ride. And then a road footwear for racing, we call it Kip Storm. So to beat, your personal records. And then a trail, we call it the Kip Summit, which is the one that is, let's say, more versatile with great, comfort, traction. And then one that has a carbon plate in it. And we call it the Kip Climb. Oh, no, sorry. Excuse me. I did a mistake. It's also the Kip Summit. So we're going with three franchises, out of 8 we have available here in Europe. And we're not starting with apparel. And then when you talk about such a big country, it's also, how do you focus geographically? Or do you even focus geographically? Again, to be perfectly honest, we went back and forth on this question over the last few months. And with the US team, we've decided to focus more on having the right partner, the right wholesale partner, and optimize for this more so than the geography. And so optimize for having the right partners who really want to build a brand with us, who are trusted in their communities, will give us honest feedback on the products, because we're coming in quite humble in the US, so we can learn and improve our products for the US consumer.
How do you think about brand versus performance marketing? It's one of my favorite discussions in marketing. I did a podcast with Second Nature, which is a business to the outdoor industry podcast as well. And we spent an hour on the difference between brand and product, or brand and performance marketing, and how one can support the other and vice versa. Mm-hmm. I'm curious your thoughts, again, based on your experience over the years and now doing the thing at a running brand, running property.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a lot of literature on the topic, and the latest I've seen is you need the brand marketing for people to then pretty much be receptive, open to any performance marketing. There's some very famous use case of Airbnb that pretty much dropped performance marketing. I worked at Coca-Cola, that's very known to focus on brand marketing.
Just brand, yeah.
Yeah, just brand to be top of mind and create a unique relationship with your consumer. I think in running it's very, very needed, specifically when you launch a brand. Like, you need to stand for something. You need to be singular, be able to express it, connect with your consumer. Why would they care about this new brand? We believe we have a very unique proposition. You cannot express this proposition through Google shopping ads or stuff like that. So I think in running, it's very much needed. Like, you need to be at this event. You need to work with the right, stakeholders, again, who not only support your product, but will give you honest feedback. You need to build the brand from the retailer, starting with them before you do any performance marketing stuff.
How do you even define brand and performance marketing?
So, I'm thinking of the funnel. So for me, the brand part is more focused on awareness consideration, and the performance is more when you're closer to the act of purchase. So if we think about performance marketing as mostly digital, of course. Would be paid search would be a great example. Display ads would be another one. But, I worked for Coke before the digital craze, if you will, and, in-store marketing, shopper marketing, we used to call it, is not performance marketing because you can't always measure another thing of performance marketing is you can actually attribute sales to performance marketing, which has some flaws unless you're a big player like Amazon and you have very robust ways of not only measuring attribution, but also incrementality, which means these sales would have not happened without this investment, which is quite hard to do. And if you have that makes sense to invest in it, of course. But if not, if you just take attribution as your metric, it's probably not a good metric because you don't know if people would have, bought this product anyway, even if they happen to have, Googled it and click on that ad. They may have done it anyway. So anyway, the need for marketing close to the point of purchase or when you're closer to your decision is important, but you do have to have this primer, frankly, that focus on awareness, that focus on defining what your brand is, that focuses on engaging with your consumer and really building, again, what you stand for as a brand, and not so much when you're in performance marketing, you're closer to, very rational arguments about your product, proof points. While where you're into brand marketing, you're trying to tap into usually a passion point or, an insight, cultural insight, something that would resonate with your consumers to start engaging in conversation.
So a lot of people that are listening to this are marketers, likely at smaller shops or brands. And I'll give a background as to why I'm asking this question. It's a two-part. One is to benefit the audience who are out there doing the thing in brands. And the other is personal benefit. Because I put together this podcast collective that's operating like an agency where I work with brands as a way to say, hey, you want to reach your audience in a trusted manner? We have 30 podcasts that can help you do that. And they have a reach of 500,000 impressions on a monthly basis and 700,000 unique social followers and 400,000 email subscribers. So I'm often working with brands to deploy marketing dollars. And there's often an over focusing on conversion metrics and bottom of funnel metrics where evaluating the efficacy of a program based on awareness and consideration, where many marketing relationships exist to check the first box or the first box and a half or two boxes of that funnel. So awareness and consideration versus you can't really do all three in one partnership, in my opinion. And please correct me if you disagree. And so I'm often having these conversations with brands about, okay, we should be thinking about awareness and we should be thinking about brand marketing. But when it comes time to evaluate the efficacy of a program that is intended to drive impact, it's often, even if they say they're focused on awareness and consideration, it often comes back to, well, it didn't convert, so we can't keep doing it. In a relationship where it's driven trust, it's driven credibility, it's driven the initial, 3 to 10 impressions. So very long-winded preamble to a question, which is, as somebody who has been at some of the biggest brands in the world that have seemed to really focus on brand marketing, and right, you can go out for your day and have 7 different opportunities to buy a Coke product, right? You go to 7-Eleven, you go to the supermarket, you go to, a running store, wherever it is, you can find it. So there's almost no ability to measure, like, hey, if I'm an influencer and I love Coke products, it's very hard to measure the number of Coke products I've sold. Coca-Cola probably has a formula to understand the impact of impressions. And, if I post this many times, here's the eCPM and whatnot. What's your call to action, or what's your message to these brands to help them understand just how important that interaction between brand and performance marketing is, and how you can't really do just performance marketing. And in my opinion, you can't really evaluate campaigns exclusively on performance marketing, or maybe you can. Curious your thoughts.
Again, unless you have the tools to measure it, which you probably don't have if you're a small brand, it's really hard. And what you describe is happening. It's like, well, it's hard to measure the output of marketing, which is awareness or brand. We used to call it brand love at Coca-Cola. We were actually measuring brand love, but through huge panels of consumers, we were asking the questions, and then you can do some filters of, oh, they love me, they love my brand more, and they actually saw my campaign. So you can start to attribute it, although, it's a correlation and not causality in those cases. I think it's frankly, you have to believe in it. You have to believe in it. And if I was a small brand, I would probably start small, and I would try to get, feedback from people from the core consumer that I'm trying to focus on. And I would use qualitative feedback to see if my brand stands for something and for what I want it to stand for. Have they seen me? What do they think about me? And all those things, in absence of, actually, I think there's a quote from Jeff Bezos, which is related to this. He said, Amazon is a very data-oriented organization, as you probably know. And that said, he does say very famously, like, if the data and the anecdotes are in conflict, you should follow the anecdotes. And which is, surprising for him to say that. And so it kind of be that point that, there's a tremendous value in feedback from your core consumer, particularly in those brands that are built, like we said earlier, through communities. And then the other point, and you did talk about Coke and, having all those stores. I worked at Vitamin Water, which at that time had we called it influencer marketing model. It was before the digital influencer. It was actually by putting the product in the hands of the right people, celebrities in their case, and the right stores. And so we were going after, boutique, super trendy store at the global level. Like, we're identifying those, cultural hotspot in the world, like, Paris, London, Tokyo. And we're focusing on those cities to launch this brand, which was very unusual for Coca-Cola, who's, used to massive scale. And I'm saying this because it also stressed the value of working with the right partners, whether they're stores or influencers or, again, stakeholders of your industry, to, place your products, again, get feedback. And I think, if you do campaigns and you ask them, they'll probably give you a good worthy opinion of what you've been doing. And that's what I would say. If you don't have those very fancy tools, try to have people from your core target who give you this honest feedback.
One step further with that would be looking at your customers, not just influencers, right? For so many brands, so I'm consulting for a brand called Eternal right now, and Eternal is a high performance healthcare for athletes or primary care for active people. And the majority of our customers are coming from referrals from existing customers, not paid influencers. And it's the strongest validation of, like, does the product work? Does the value of what we're offering work? And I think that's a huge miss for so many companies, that they're not considering that their customers are their best source of new customers. Can you talk about that, and if something like that is part of your marketing repertoire, and some recommendations on how to push further with what you already have?
Well, it's for sure, it's the most effective marketing is word
lowest
of mouth.
CAC.
Yeah, from a friend of yours who say, hey, you should try this brand. This is great. It's really hard to orchestrate it and measure it. But yeah, if you have opportunities in your brand or industry to do, like you said, referrals, actually on pay. So at Kiprun, I'm thinking if in our plan we do some things like these, not for our footwear, but we do have an app, a coaching app. It's actually a free, coaching app for you to get your training for your next 5K, 10K, half marathon or marathon. It's free. In Europe, it's quite big. 15% of those who took part in the Paris Marathon train with this app. It's called Kiprun Pacer. Yeah, it has great star review. It has 1.1 million downloads in the world. And we did do some referral on this app, probably again because it's easier to do referral for a digital product than a footwear.
Right.
And yeah, that's super effective, like, because you're a user, you love it, you actually reach your goal thanks to this app, and then you're telling your friends and you're empowering them to, you're telling your friends and giving them an incentive to do so. That's extremely effective. And you're right, we should probably think of a way to do this also for our footwear.
One of the longtime partners of this podcast is called Superfiliate, and it's an affiliate and creator management platform that I've worked with for brands like Ketone IQ and others. They constantly remind me, like, hey, we do customer programs too. And it's just like, it's so frequently a forgotten piece of the go-to-market strategy, where it's like, again, it is the lowest cost. It takes structure, it takes some sort of mechanism and a handful of emails or messaging. And so it's just about empowering the people that already love what you're doing. And I was having a conversation with a brand that was about to do a bunch of marketing with the collective, and they were going to sign on with 6 or 7 shows, and we had a 3-month pilot, and we're going to double down if it worked and whatnot. And they're like, feel like we have a lot more wood to chop with our customers before we make a big spend on paid. I was like, you know what? Bravo. You're right. You should spend that effort at a fraction of what you'd pay us to execute, and probably get similar results, if not better results from
right.
customers.
I'll add it to my plan. You're right. And actually, it does remind me that I think when I was at Decathlon in the US, I think because it's a brand in the US very prone to this, so not known by a lot of people, but those who know you really love you, because I think we did some qualitative research, and like 80% of the people who know Decathlon, knew it from abroad and very attached to it. And so I do believe we had sent them like emails with promo codes to share with their friends. And I think you're right, it was quite effective. And another industry where I think I did it was at Amazon Fresh, when we opened our, the first supermarkets. And it's quite common in the supermarket, industry to do a promo code and like a coupon. And I think we also did some where we were giving, our best customers some coupons to give to others. So you're right. It's so old school, but actually, it's something you should definitely have as a must in your arsenal. So
I'll add it for and do it with Superfiliate.
Yes.
There are a handful of great examples of like customer loyalty programs or customer referral programs. If you look at Wazelle, which is a women's apparel brand, they have a paid membership program where you pay a fee to be a part of a community, and the members that are in that group their lifetime value is something like 3 times more valuable than a regular customer. Those people are posting on social constantly. They're not being asked to do it. These people are showing up in the community constantly. And it's fascinating when there's an effort made on customers versus, or in tandem with the influencers and others earned and paid media, you can really go far.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. Great point. I'll add it.
Talk to me about your, I don't want to say hot takes, but your take on the influencer space in 2026. What are you seeing from an evolution standpoint? Everybody wants to be an influencer these days. So if everybody is one, is anybody even impactful? Like, how do you think about this oversaturation? And again, with trust being the main thing that a brand is interested in.
It's a little, how to say this, complicated space, I believe, for brands in running, or like those industry where you are building trust. And what we found hard, and very honestly having debate about here in the team, is when influencers switch from brands to brands to do their stunt or their one-off, and that's.
I want to talk more about this. Yes, tell me more.
Well, that's creating debate. Like, is it it's not very. I guess if you put yourself in the shoes of a runner, I guess, we know they're wary about, marketing BS and all this. And if you follow this person and you see that person switching from brands to brands, of course, it's not very, credible. So then as a brand, how do you deal with this? It's not an easy one.
I have a lot of thoughts on this, and I've talked about it with a lot of people. So if you look in the media space, there are podcasters like Ali Feller, who has been with New Balance since, I don't know, she's been there 10 years maybe. Uh-huh. And then I've had this conversation with Laura Green, who has worked with Puma and ASICS and a handful of different brands, and her take on it and some of the other people who do jump from brand to brand is like, I've recognized that, the shoe that works for me doesn't work for everyone. So I want to do a bunch of activations and highlight different things and different moments in a brand's year. And that's what just highlighting that. And it's similar to sports nutrition, right? What works for one person doesn't work for everyone. And so I've gone back and forth on this, and for the last 3 years I worked with the same brand, and now I'm exploring, what is, and I like that consistency. I like the ability to get to know the people on the marketing team, get to know the the people that are producing the social content, and like going around the country with the Puma Social Factory was super fun. I met these guys in San Francisco and Austin and Orlando and all these different places. And then I had a conversation with Zach Bitter, who is an elite an elite ultra runner, mostly on the track, and the 100-mile distance or 12-hour duration. He was with Ultra for almost a decade. And he left Ultra because he didn't feel that they were fielding a competitive ultra shoe that he could, shave minutes off of at the 100-mile distance in the pursuit of world and American records. And so he's had this thought that he's interested in spending like 3 or 4 months at a time with a certain brand around a certain event and saying, this is why I choose this shoe for that event. This is why I choose this shoe for that event. And his take on it was, if I'm targeting records, whatever shoe I pick matters. And whatever shoe I pick is going to be a validation of, this is what I believe is the fastest shoe in this moment, and try it, kind of a thing. And so I understand both sides of the equation, both the way that Zach is coming about it, the way that Laura has talked about it, and my bias towards longer term partnerships. How do you think about that as it relates to how the brand wants to move forward?
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I think it's kind of a parallel with being an athlete, and an athlete who would choose a portfolio of products, which can make sense as long as, like you said, it's very authentic, like they actually did try these products and in a way endorse it. Also, I like your point, like if it's framed as I've choose this product and it's right for these reasons, and it's right for you and also for me right now, although you may have another product, that I think can work. And that's different from, but it's probably another type of influencer that are more mass lifestyle, and so that tends to switch more. And actually sometimes I think what I don't like when brands work with influencers is when you see the influencer, like let's say wearing the shoe for a marathon, which is a commitment, but it's not coming with all the authenticity you just said. And they actually just, you can feel if they do it, once with this
for a paycheck.
Yeah. Exactly. So I think you're right. As long as, of course, longer term is an obvious, way to make it more authentic, but also I think the way it can be explained can make it more authentic. I agree with that.
What is the DNA or the makeup of someone that makes a good partner for Kiprun?
Yeah, so it's actually a good one because we think this is a very important question for us. Like, we like to believe that we're kind of a different brand. We have a different personality. We're very approachable, very honest. We're generous. And, a good example of that is, we created one of the first women trail team a few years ago. And some of those athletes were telling us, when I was at my previous sponsor, I was just a number. I didn't even know my boss, for instance, the leader of the brand. And here I talk to him every day. I know his name, and, it feels like we're very approachable, very, very close to them. And that is a fact. So for us, the values are very important, making sure we share the same values, that we like to create a relationship with the athletes. We have about 40 athletes that we work with. They're very involved in the creation of our products. And so that's definitely an important factor. Of course, we want them to fully endorse the products by making them co-creating it.
Pretty all in.
Yeah, it's pretty all in. But we say our mission and what differentiates us from the other brands and gives us confidence that we have something to bring to the US market is we like to say that we will democratize high performance products. And so having athletes that, believe in this, that are ready to go beyond the skepticism of, it's, a little bit more affordable than this other shoe, but it actually delivers and sometimes over delivers on their, specs. And so you have to be quite open-minded to be, one of those athletes. And then what else? Yeah. And we're looking for athletes who, believe in our point of view. Like we like to say that we think what matters more is the journey more so than the destination. And so we'll be looking for athletes who are, willing to share their journey and their training and their ups and downs, because they generally believe that this is what they're looking for into running, and not just, winning titles, which of course they're interested in. But we like to find those athletes that have a story beyond the finish line.
Do you think that the same would be true if we were having this conversation 10 years ago? The lack of a pure reliance on race results?
Well, I don't know for the others. For us, yes, because it's truly the ethos of the brand. Like I said earlier, like we want to help people keep running and so be their supporter. So for us, it's really because we believe the journey matters more than the destination. And this was true from day one, that, we want to support them to keep running. So yeah, I think for us would have been the case, but, don't get me wrong. We need, specifically when you're a small brand, a challenger brand in the US, you do need this validation,
yeah,
from the results. And yeah, Jimmy Gressier is, the recent 10K world champion. He happens to be French. And of course that helps us. And Blandine Lirondelle, is one of our athletes also, and she won one of the 4 major ultra trail in the world, and that helps us. But again, for us, we're not chasing records. We want, stories about the athlete's journey, and we really want people who are, aligned with our personality traits.
Amazing. Julien, is there anything else you wanted to share with the audience today?
No, then I'm very, very excited to launch in the US soon. Like I said, I lived in your country. I really, really love it. So that's one of the reasons I was interested in this job, is to be able to go back and launch Kiprun. So I hope people in America will like it. I hope they'll be honest. In French, we're very direct culture. That's something I've learned in my 15 years.
I worked for a French CEO. Yeah, I can confirm.
Yeah. It's very direct. It's actually funny if you have if you're interested in these cultural differences. Is we French are very direct in the personal life, more so than Americans.
It's great. It's very useful if you can receive it. Good. Yeah.
But in the professional life, I would actually say that Americans are quite direct, and a bit more direct than the French. So it's an interesting difference. But anyway, I was just saying this, that I hope people in the US will like it and will give us direct, honest feedback, so we can continue to help them and support them.
Sounds like a plan. And with an April launch, does that mean we'll see you in Boston?
Not in Boston, but I hope I'll be in the US in 2026, definitely.
Sounds good. We'll see you out there.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Julien.
Bye-bye.